We focus on the facts. Today we have a special show. Trish and I have, Patricia Negron and I are leaders in the movement to take down the global pedophile network. And we have a rough time, especially here in the United States, because all of the elite that are involved in this pedophile network are politicians and CEOs and everything. So anyhow, when this Nexum sex cult scandal broke open, I had said then that the elite were going to turn up being involved in this sex cult. And they certainly are. And today one of our guests is Ben Szemkus, and he's going to tell us about when he attended a Nexum mixer recruitment party back in 2007, and he's going to tell us all of the elite that were present at that party. And then our second guest, another problem that Trish and I always talk about, is we can't take these perverts down in the U.S. because they're politicians in the elite and they're so protected. And so we're so enraged lately at seeing all these politicians and everything that have been identified as perverts and rapists and everything else walking around like nothing happened, and on pundits on news shows and everything just like nothing happened. They're just walking around free. Well, our second guest today is going to be one of the women that our former President Bill Clinton raped, and that is Juanita Broaddrick. And she's going to come on and tell us her story. And so I'll bring Trish on now, and then we'll bring Ben on, and we'll get the show going. Welcome, Trish.
Hi, Evelyn. I'm so excited. I was listening to Ben's video about the party. I hadn't gotten through it, but I can't wait to talk to him. Wow, this really, the one thing that it makes me realize, Evelyn, is this, you know the Skull and Bones at Yale, right? Those are the men that they go into a coffin, they get sodomized, and then they can be blackmailed for the rest of their life. And the CIA has recruited from that group for decades, right? This is the female version of that. They were recruiting at Yale. It ties it all together. It has come full circle. And this is incredible. I'm very excited.
Sure. Well, let's bring Ben on, and he can tell us this story. And then I have a few things to add after he tells us his story. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Hey, how's it going? You guys can hear me all right?
Yep, I can hear you. I couldn't hear you real good, Trish.
I can hear Ben, and I can hear you very faintly as well, Evelyn. So
really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Ben, tell the listeners your story.
Okay, my name is Ben Szemkus, and I am going to tell you about the time I went to a party back in 2007 in Hamden, Connecticut. It was in February, and it was essentially a Nexium recruitment mixer. We call it a mixer because I guess to call it a Nexium party, I guess, would be to undermine what they were all about, because the host had told us that, they threw these huge extravagant parties on islands like Richard Branson's island, Necker Island, and they had all these other venues and that they were going forward with going on with. And I went through this thing totally blind. I didn't know at all what Nexium was. The only reason I even remember this whole party was from watching this TV show Smallville, and it just kind of jogged my memory. And thinking back, like, why would I watch this goofy show? And going into it, I just kind of revealed what it was. That when I'm looking at these pictures of Keith Rainier, I look at these pictures of Alice and Max. Like, why do I know these people? And it was a familiarity that goes beyond just, hey, I've seen these people in an article or something like that, and that's why I know them. It's like, no, I feel like I've met these people before, And right. So it just starts working, and I said, oh, yeah, that weird party that I went to back when I was in college. And so there was an organic process to really getting this this whole memory to fall back into place. It's just kind of like remembering a movie you saw a long time ago or something like that. Or, just a birthday party, say, like when you're turning 11 or 12. It all kind of came back to me, and I just had this oh shit moment where I'm just like, wow, I can't believe I was in a room with all those people. But see, the crazy thing is at the time all those people were irrelevant. You know, back in 2007, nobody knew who Uma Abedin was. You know, it just didn't seem very relevant at the time.
Right.
So,
James Alefantis and Stormy Daniels, all these new names that you were hearing that are now, you know, front and center of all this corruption. It's incredible.
Yeah. Well, it's peculiar seeing, you know, being at a party and then seeing these potentially, you know, high-powered politicians just working with these other people that are just kind of, you know, these floaty, kind of cultish, almost like a sorority machine kind of essence. It was a strange thing to see kind of working together. You know, and it was hard to place, like, where's the link here? Like, why are these guys all hanging out? Why are they doing this? And
right.
I mean, even leaving the party, I kind of felt that it just seemed like some kind of Scientology or some kind of very cultish, New Age, a pyramid scheme, essentially.
Right. Well, go on with the story and tell them who you'd seen there, because, like Trish said, they're all there together back in 2007, and this is over 10 years later.
Yeah.
They're all back there together in 2007. Go ahead.
So I'm kind of bouncing in and out from there was a kind of a side deck that led out from where the kitchenette area was, because there's a kitchenette and then a little dining room area, and then next to that was a living room, and then right in the living room there was kind of like this communal apartment computer, and I'm kind of bouncing in and out smoking cigarettes, and they had mentioned that there was going to be, you know, a special guest, and that, you know, they had all the NXIVM crew was coming through, and how, you know, this woman from Smallville, because we had watched a couple of episodes of Smallville getting ready for the whole thing, and already I'm just like, what the hell is this party? But you know, it was this little it was actually a larger apartment that was off of Skiff Street, but it was in this little complex, and
who actually rented that apartment? Do you know? Maybe you don't know.
I have no idea who lived in it. Later, I was reading somebody who was, I think, trying to corroborate my story, and she said that the person's name was Jan. And that seems like something that I kind of remember, because I did talk to her for a second. I know in all rights and purposes I should remember who the host was, but I don't. But I was invited to the party from a friend of a friend, so... You know, I wasn't necessarily going there. I knew that there was going to be a bunch of Yale kids there. And so I was like, well, you know, perhaps I could sell some weed or something like that. I don't know. So I didn't really go there with the intent on making any kind of lifetime friendships or anything like that.
Right.
So I'm there, I'm smoking on the back deck, and then Stormy Daniels and her bodyguard, her bouncer, bodyguard, whatever, came through the slotted shades onto the back deck, and they had mentioned she was coming. They were like, "Oh, we have this adult film star coming. Her name is Stormy Daniels." I said, "Oh, it's like a porn star," and they're like, "Don't call her that when she's here." But they were specific about that, and so, you know, I kind of went along with all like the rules of the game that they had for this whole party, because, you know, I don't think they had cameras or anything like that either. I think it was just supposed to be just, you know, this happening event and this women's empowerment kind of movement party. It was what they kept selling it as, too. And well,
they were probably secretly recording everything anyhow.
I wonder. You know, you never know. But this is also 2007. I'm trying to think of like the kind of technology they had, and that was. I mean, I'm sure they could have had all the camera phones, or not camera phones, but computer cameras on, because all those things probably had those little goofy camera tops or whatever that they used to have.
Well, the other thing about NXIVM that has been exposed is that when members become part of this JNES program and get the cauterizing, that they have to submit compromising material. So they had to submit photographs and other things, like, or write a testimony about something very very sensitive so that that material could then be used to blackmail them into compliance. So that's probably what they had to do.
Right, to join up, right.
I'm sure that's probably a lot of the reason why you don't hear a lot of them speaking out at all, because you don't really hear any kind of I can see we've heard like a couple of different people talk about their NXIVM experiences, but either the rest of them are probably being held down and nobody's trying to hear about them, because there is a lot of pushback with these things. There is a lot of people who don't want these things to get talked about.
Well, the Bronfman sisters, the Seagram heiresses, financed NXIVM with $150 million, and that is in addition to an aggressive litigation campaign that it has waged against. There are a couple of people who are trying to blow the whistle, but they've been like suing the living daylights out of them, one of whom is a former PR person. He worked for them for about 3 months and then realized what they were doing and then blew the whistle. And then there's another woman who was a member, as well as Catherine Oxenberg. She's from Dallas, that show back in the 80s. Her daughter is a member of NXIVM, and she's been trying to get her daughter out of that cult. And so that's another way that it's gotten some attention. But there are a lot of people who can't speak out because of the blackmail material.
Right. Or they, I think a lot of them. I think a lot of them probably had to sign NDAs as well, and those are pretty binding contracts.
Right. Sure. Well, go ahead and tell us who came out on this blew my mind when you described the people who came out. You met one after the other.
I'm on the back deck smoking a cigarette. Stormy Daniels had come out, and she had said that she was nervous. I asked if she wanted to smoke any weed. She said no. It would make her get all goofy and her eyes would turn all puffy. And so I was like, okay. Well, she ended up bumming a couple cigarettes off me. So I bummed some cigarettes. We smoked a couple cigarettes, and I was mainly, I don't know, at the time, my thing was just, if I didn't really know anyone, I'd just like pop off a bunch of jokes or something like that. So I think I was telling her a bunch of probably just really offensive jokes, I imagine. And then the Allison Mack, who was already there, because when she came in with Keith Rainier. And Keith kind of sauntered around the room. He was really aloof in how he was. His gestures were very just kind of slow and magnanimous. And Allison Mack, she didn't really. I wasn't very fascinated with her, and I don't think she liked me either. But I remember she had kind of just like this green wool overcoat, and underneath she had some thigh highs, kind of like a corset on, and kind of a mini skirt. She looked like a prison guard from a 1980s movie, kind of. And so she poked her head out of the screen door, and she told Stormy Daniels that hey, we're starting. And she looked at me and the bodyguard, or the bodyguard that was out there. I want to say his name was Kurt, but I think that might be wrong, so don't quote me on that. Okay. And me and him were out on the deck, and so Allison Mack closes the door. She's like, looks at us. She was just like, yeah, this is the girls' only part. And then there was another boyfriend that was there. He must have been the boyfriend of one of the ladies who lived there, one of the Yale ladies. And so he came out. And we're all just, smoking cigarettes on the back deck while they did their thing. It was only about 15 minutes, maybe, tops, maybe 12 minutes of just waiting out there. But Allison Mack, she's just like, all right, bitches, and they all kind of like got up on their knees in the living room in a semicircle, and we're just kind of listening to Allison Mack do her thing for a while. I didn't know what she said. And Keith Rainier talks for a little bit. Maybe about 3 minutes. I don't know what he said either. And then the next time I looked in, Stormy Daniels was talking to the ladies that were there. There's probably about 12 maybe 13, maybe about a baker's dozen of females that were there for the recruitment. And that was including the 2 females that I was there with. Because I was invited through these girls. And actually, they kind of gave me some crap about it because when I was there, they were like, there's no men that are supposed to be here. And I was like, well, I'm their ride. So, the reason that they're here is because I'm their ride here, which was a lie. I was not the ride. But that was fine. It got me to stay at the party.
Right. So now tell us about the other people. Yeah.
And so on and on, going through it, they do their thing, and then, kind of the party starts. And, I'm kind of bouncing in and out from the deck, and more people are showing up to the party as this is happening. And one of the fellas that I identified talking to was James Alefantis.
Yeah, James.
I remember because he had a gap in his teeth right in the middle. And, I was thinking about it today, and I was trying to figure out, because he said he had flew in, and I tried to name the airport because there's only a couple of airports around there. There's like LaGuardia and JFK, and I guess Newark Airport if you're a sadist, and then there's BIA, Hartford, Bradley International. And he said he flew into Danbury Airport, which means he came in on a private airplane.
Really? Yeah. We've got the Corn Pig, Stormy Daniels, and then James Alefantis of Pizzagate fame. And then we got more all together here.
And then looking around the room, there's a lady who was at the sink in the little kitchenette, and she was kind of washing up glasses and getting, looked like she was going to make a bunch of drinks. And that was Nancy Salzman.
Okay. And Nancy Salzman,
wow.
Nancy Salzman, she's one of the head ladies for next year. She was calling a lot of their shots for a second.
She's been indicted, I believe.
I don't really remember what we talked about. We just talked for a second. I introduced and I explained why I was there, and then she introduced me to the Bronfman sisters who were across the room, Claire and Sarah. And they were sitting on a couch. They had really no interest in me. I just figured that they were just kind of Yale liberal hippie girls that, they just don't care. They just really they don't have the most receptive attitude towards men. But I just thought they were just some dirty hippies. They were wearing like really, really oversized white T-shirts, just like Hanes white T-shirts, but they were like XXX men's white T-shirts that they were wearing. And I also remember James Alefantis was wearing a white T-shirt, and Nancy Salzman, was wearing a white T-shirt as well.
Really? So is this kind of their uniform for these?
I don't know. I thought about it because typically when you're dealing with like rites and ritual practices, there's always that color white, that virginal. Like if it's a wedding or if it's just any kind of religious rites, especially with Catholics. There's a lot of color white, so I wonder about that. I don't know what it was actually about though.
Right.
And then I'm hanging out, and I see this guy come into the party. He comes into the front door. He's like this older man. And he comes across the room and introduces himself, and he's like, "Hey, my name's Eric Schneiderman." And he said something about being New York senator, and I was like, "Oh man, you're a senator?" He's like, "No. I'm a state senator. It's a whole different thing." And we talked. I talked with this guy for a minute, and I asked him to. Was like, "Hey, do you want to smoke any weed?" And he's like, "Nah, I don't think my constituents would be happy with that." I mean, he was a gentleman. He was a nice guy, but I mean that doesn't say for much. I mean,
Chris, what did he go on to be that Schneiderman?
Schneiderman. Eric Schneiderman went on to be, I believe, the New York State AG. He was the Attorney General.
Yeah, just kicked out of office, wasn't
he? Yes.
Trish?
That's exactly right.
I still can't hear you good, Trish. Maybe you could just talk louder, because I don't know what's wrong with the phone.
I'm sorry.
Yes, Trish.
Eric, sorry about that.
It does sound like you're trying to talk through like maybe a hurricane or something. I could hear like a lot of kind of static going on.
Well, they mess with my show anytime we have great guests, so this is not unexpected. But anyhow, I thought he just got kicked out of office for having women that he beat up and stuff, I think, Schneiderman.
Yes.
Yeah, apparently he was beating the crap out of women. And he was saying all kinds of horrible racial epithets at them.
Yep. Yes, he did.
Okay, so after Schneiderman, then what came next?
One of the ladies that was there that I noticed, she just had kind of like weird dark. She just looked mystical. That's the best descriptive word I can come up with to just describe her. She was this little tiny woman, and that she was introduced to me as Uma.
As Uma Abedi.
Uma, yeah. And when all of a sudden this skinny guy comes to the room, he's got this thick Queens accent, and he says his name's Anthony Weiner, and he actually points out Uma, and he's like, "That's my wife, Uma."
Huh.
And he was referring to Uma Abedin.
Right.
Now,
so we got the porn pig, we got Schneiderman, we got Uma, we got Anthony Weiner, Allison Matt. So they're all there together. All the way back in 2007, this is, people. So this is how long. Go ahead.
Someone else you mentioned, Ben, was the bald guy and the clipboard, and the fact that they were shown snuff films. That must have been Brian Porter, who the Bronfman sisters also financed to the tune of $30 million. And he was recently arrested for illegal human experiments using those snuff films. And they were real snuff films of people actually being raped and killed.
Right. This is what we're dealing with.
On the other side of that, though, the reason I didn't think that it was so weird, because people have said, "Oh, yeah, right," like all these Yale girls are going to be sitting around watching snuff films, and it's like, well, wait a minute.
Right.
You're talking about Yale, first of all. I think you mentioned it before because you mentioned the Skull and Bones, and then you didn't even mention that Bill Clinton, that guy was in the Scroll and Key, which is that's all the smart dudes, and they're in that group. And then there's all kinds of groups. Hillary was in a group that was at Yale, as well as she was in a secret society. I can't remember what they call those girls, though. I'd have to look that up again, but there's a female secret society there as well.
Yes.
So that place is like, I think there's about 6 or 7 known about secret societies in Yale alone. And the Skull and Bones is probably the most popular of them.
Well,
it's probably the best known. I mean, George Bush, both Bushes were in Skull and Bones.
Oh, the Skull and Bones were our presidents for about 20 years. And there were 20 of the worst years in history, I think.
Then I was reading an article today that said after you left that party that Elliot Spitzer also came to that party that you were at.
And here's another thing about it is I think when I was leaving that party was when they were showing up, and I looked and I was like, who the hell is this guy? And he was with this female that I'm pretty sure she had a fur coat on. And they were just coming through as me and the 2 females that I was with were leaving. And mind you, when I was leaving, because we just doing our polite thing and just saying, hey, I think it was probably like just before midnight or whatever, maybe a little after midnight. And like, hey, we got to get out of here. And we were nice enough. We were like, hey, it was nice to meet you guys. We're gonna get out of here. And I remember Anthony Weiner. He's like, oh wait, whoa, he's like, hold on a second. And he's like, hey, Uma. did you, she's like, she grabs a clipboard. He's like, did we get all the names of everyone at the party? And so she goes around the room, and she starts taking down names. And so that's the funny thing, because I had emailed the New York Department of Justice and tried to talk to them. I haven't been able to talk to them yet. But if they took all those NXIVM files, that means that they have a file somewhere in there for probably around February of 2007. And at the top of the list, it's going to be in Uma Abedin's handwriting, but it'll be the attendance list from that party. My name's going to be at the top of it, Ben Shemkis. And then probably whatever information was on the student ID card that I showed her, because she wanted to see an ID, and I was like, I'm not going to show her my license. I don't even think I had one on me.
Wow.
But I just showed her the student ID. So there is, in her handwriting, there is a piece of paper that has my name on it somewhere. Wow. I don't know if it got shredded or I don't know. I don't think that would be a high priority shred, because honestly, like with the story that I'm, with this whole thing, I'm saying that all these people were there. I didn't see them actually doing anything weird. I didn't see anything illegal going on.
Right.
As for the
fact that they were all in the same room together around NXIVM. I mean, it really,
and
all these people.
That's even weirder, because at that point of the party, when Anthony and Uma and Schneiderman and Salzman and the Bronfmans were all hanging out, that's when I didn't see Keith anywhere. I didn't see Stormy Daniels anywhere, and I didn't see Allison Mack anywhere. So that whole part, like that whole third part of the whole deal, like after the whole girls only part, I didn't really see them again. They were off in the back bedroom somewhere.
Wow. Well, this is,
probably
this is what,
cauterizing people.
Right.
That's what I wonder. I'm wondering about that. And people are like, oh, well, how does she not have it in all these pictures? And it's like, well, they have people that airbrush all those pictures. I mean, give me a break. When was the last time you watched a Johnny Depp movie and you saw Johnny Depp's tattoos in the movie? You know what I'm saying? They brush that stuff out.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's not hard to do.
Right. Well, I'm concerned about you, Ben. I really am. I talked to Ben yesterday, and you coming out with this story, it's just so horrible, because everybody gets murdered nowadays, and nothing gets done about it. I mean, it happens in plain sight, and nothing gets done about it.
I'm surprised that my story just didn't go right down the toilet of the internet. It just didn't get junked from the beginning, because people can be savages. But I think that people who have watched the deposition that I made, and they probably see, like, hey, this guy's being genuine. I mean, unless he's absolutely out of his mind, which it's not the case. There is something that the next step in all this, excuse me, is going to be I want to take a lie detector test for all this, and I think that there are some people that are trying to coordinate some sort of fund just to cover the lie detector. Because at first I said, hey, I'll pay for half of this lie detector, and then I have a couple people that are saying, no, don't even worry about that. We got some people who will cover it. So I just need to, because I'm in Washington State, I just need to find a legitimate lie detector service, and just someone that I can go through to or come through, and I'm probably going to need maybe like a witness or something like that, just on that end, just someone I don't know or whatever that can come along and say, hey, yeah, you did take this lie detector. And that's going to be the next
everything is so corrupted, right? We have to make sure that you get an honest person taking that lie detector test, because they'll rig it.
Well, the other thing, Ben, have you sworn a deposition? Have you sworn an affidavit?
Not yet. No.
I would skip the lie detector test, and I would swear an affidavit, because that's like you're legally bound by that. And for you to go to the length of signing an affidavit, a statement under penalties of perjury, then because you would end up having to do that anyway.
Sure.
So I would skip the lie detector test for the reasons that Evelyn just said. You just never know. People will dispute it, and then the argument will be about the lie detector test instead of the content of the lie detector test. So if you clear the affidavit, the focus is squarely on that, and I would be happy to write about it too. I'd love to see what we can do to help make sure you get lots of attention for what you have to offer in terms of your experience there.
I appreciate that.
Sure, and and I was just thinking, I can write an article and put it out, but you know what? These online newspapers, it's so bad that they probably wouldn't publish it.
Well, we could do it on Medium or Steam.
Most of the newspapers that I publish with online
we'll definitely
still totally Democrat.
Work on that.
Probably still support that pedophile Hillary.
Your story is incredible. Really, I can't even begin to tell you. I don't know if you realize how significant it is. It's a trip. It's shattering for sure. It really is. So I very much appreciate the chance to talk to you.
Oh, so do I. I really do appreciate that you agreed to come on it. We had a hard time hooking up on YouTube when I left you messages, and I'd go back and they wouldn't be there, and it was so bizarre.
There's a little bit of trickery that's going on the internet right now that I noticed, and like I said, there's been a lot of pushback. Because I did approach a lot of different people. And there were some people that were around here that actually did contact me. There were some truthers in the citizen journalist community that contacted me back, and all I got from them was pushback.
Really?
It was just bull crap. Really, I tried to call some of them out. I actually called them out on Twitter, and they tried to, one of them tried to call me a shill even. And I was like, no, I'm not a shill. I'm just a guy who's trying.
Yes.
I went to a party, and I'm just trying to tell this story, and he's just like, well, I've already covered it. And I'm like, well, you haven't covered anything, I'm sticking my neck out here, really, using my real name doing this.
Right.
So, I don't know what all the waiting around is, and they just basically just stopped talking to me, so it's just like that.
This clearly, based on the research, that I've seen, this was a sort of extension of the MK Ultra program and they were using preschools. I don't know if you're aware of that piece of the puzzle, but they had a preschool program in half a dozen or more countries. Many of the centers have been shut down or under investigation for child sex trafficking. They were grooming these children, and they were conditioning them for these psychopathic kind of lives where they would be assassins and sex slaves. And it's just incredible. I mean, I know that sounds absurd, but there's documentation of what was going on and police reports attesting to that kind of stuff. So, and the publicist that I mentioned, who realized what was going on, also came forward about this. So it's well documented, but getting anybody to write about it is extremely difficult. But the good news is that, the truther community is so much bigger than Twitter and Facebook. And people, so many of us have been barred from Twitter permanently now that we're all, setting up our parallel system. And there are a lot more of us than people realize. And the other thing you should know is that, the Pentagon has a PowerPoint presentation that they use for doing online smear campaigns. And, so you should fully expect to feel the full weight of that given what you know and are telling us. But you should also know that that's only a tiny piece of the puzzle, and that's a paid piece of the puzzle, and there's a much bigger one that will support you that's out there. And you just have to keep reminding yourself of that, because you will get attacked.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, and we will support you 1,000%.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. I don't know if Juanita I asked them if they could let me know when Juanita called in. Juanita Broadwick is supposed to come on the show, one of the many women that Bill Clinton has raped and gotten away with. And this is just so out of hand that we have got to take these perverts and pedophiles down, and we can't do it. Because
I had read a little bit about Juanita Broadwick, and that whole story just blows my mind. This poor woman, and then the pushback that she's actually gotten from people is just absolutely incredible. It's astounding.
Well, and one of the things that this whole Harvey Weinstein, these charges against him have revealed is that he uses the same firm. It's called Black Hughes, and what they do is harass and threaten women who dare speak out against these very powerful men and women. And these were the same kind of people. And David Brock, who was married to James Alefantis, was the one who, went after Juanita Broadwick and the other women who came out and accused Bill Clinton. So it's amazing how tiny that little circle is. And I have to say, I don't know Juanita Broadwick, but I cannot begin to imagine what she's been put through. I really can't.
Great. Hold on to the show. You two go on with the show. I'm gonna call up and see if Juanita's there. Okay. You guys go on with the show.
Okay.
Oh, you got it.
So did your girlfriend tell you, or your date that night tell you anything about the films or anything else like that went on behind when it was like the girls only stuff?
Okay, so how that broke down is after Allison Mack and Keith and Stormy Daniels, after they were done with their whole speeches, it seemed like they broke down into groups, and the way that I discerned it was there was a computer that was in the living room. There was a couple of computers, I think, that were in the back bedrooms, like maybe one in the main back bedroom, and then there was another kind of bedroom that was across from the bathroom. I think two roommates lived in. Like, they shared a room, I believe, and there was a couple of computers in there. And so they all, I want to say like there was about 13 or 14 girls there, or females there. And this is, girls that were mainly from Yale. The two girls that I was with were from Southern Connecticut State University. And then I think there might have been some females from UNH, University of New Haven, that were there. And they broke off into groups, and they were each on a computer console. So I think the videos were only like maybe a couple minutes long, so it was just like a couple minutes long of each of them sitting at the computer, and the guy with the bald guy with the clipboard was walking around watching them. He was studying their reactions. And I had talked to my girlfriend at the time when we had gotten back to the dorm rooms that I was staying at. We talked for a second about what was on the video, and her friend as well, because she hung out for a second with us. And
I'm back
they
now.
said,
Juanita didn't call in, and you know what, Chris, you know this, that they mess with this show all the time, and so I don't know. I know she was going to call in, and I feel really bad. I'm sure that they messed it up somehow. That she probably tried to call in, and they messed it up somehow.
Now, you mentioned the other day about how someone tried to run you over.
Oh, yeah. I think it was April 18th. Yep, ran right into my car on purpose. Tried to murder me. And, I was telling you, I don't go out of my house. I sneak out to go to the grocery store every now and then. And this was one of them times. It was just 4 blocks from my house. And I told the woman that she tried to murder me, and I told the insurance company that she tried to murder me. And they didn't really dispute it, and they settled the insurance claim right off the bat to get rid of me, to shut me up.
Wow.
But that's why I'm worried about you. I'm worried about anybody that comes out. Because anybody that comes close to taking down this pedophile network, they try to murder. You know, anybody that gets close to this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's scary. But anyhow, Juanita, well, you know, this was all the way back. I'll tell a story. It was all the way back in 1978 when Bill Clinton was Attorney General, when he raped her. She let him come up to her hotel room. She was at a convention. She ran a nursing home operation, and she was at a convention for that nursing home, and Bill Clinton was Attorney General, and her and her husband had supported Bill and Hillary, you know, in their campaigning for things over the years. And he asked to come up, and she let him up, and then she felt so guilty because she let him in the room, and he raped her. And what he did was bite her lip real hard, and subdued her on the bed and raped her and tore her pantyhose off and raped her. And then the bad part was when he goes to leave, he turns around at the door, and she's laying on the bed just raped and everything. And he puts on his sunglasses, she said, and he turns around and told her, "You better put some ice on that," meaning about her lip, and walks out the door. And she kept quiet about it. She said she felt so guilty because she shouldn't have let him up in her room to begin with.
She about all of it.
Thought something like that would happen.
Did you hear that quote that he said?
You
know, he guesses that it's times have changed as far as what you can do to someone against their will.
I can't hear you again, Trish. I'm sorry. I don't know why that is.
Well, hopefully you'll be able to reschedule with her.
But anyhow, I was listening to Juanita's interview from back, I think it was 1999 or something this morning. And it's just terrible because what is going on, all these politicians are involved in this filth, and we can't take them down because the mainstream media won't cover it, and they just keep covering this stuff up. I mean, Bill Clinton, how many women did he sexually assault?
I'm sure we have no idea.
Unbelievable, and he gets away with this. And the whole time that Hillary was running for president, it's bad enough that she is running that pedophile network, rat lines around the world. That's bad enough. But then her husband, the serial rapist, and she's out there in the media, just lets her go, doesn't bring any of this stuff up, and it's so sickening.
Well, did you see, though, she was in Dublin, Evelyn, and receiving an honorary degree from Trinity, and she was met with protesters about the Clinton body count and other stuff, so she's not being received warmly around the world.
It's terrible. I don't know why. Well, yeah, lately now, I think it's great that people are confronting them out in public. You know, Bill and Joe Biden is another one. The way they keep parading him out here. And, there's no way that the people don't know that he is a serial child molester. Doing it on public TV on what's that channel? C-SPAN, and then ceremonies when they're swearing in the senators. I think this is a ritual in the Senate. I really do. I think that them parents agree to let him fondle their children right there on public TV for the whole world to see. There's no way you can miss this. And then parents stand there and do nothing. Except the one time, Jeff Sessions, when Biden came down by his little granddaughter, it was great because Sessions pushed his hand away when he went to put his hand on his little, probably toddler granddaughter, probably only like 3 years old. He goes to put his hand on her shoulder, and Biden, Sessions pushes his hand away. And they keep parading this pedophile out as a pundit on TV like he's going to be running for president in 2020. They think for 1 minute that they're going to put that pedophile in office. We are done having pedophiles run this country.
I'm with you.
And I'm so sick of looking at it.
So did you learn anything, Ben, from your girlfriend about the snuff films or anything?
So they split up. I think they were in groups. They had split up from the group, and they were watching these videos, probably about 2-minute long videos, each of them. And then the bald guy with the clipboard reacted to them, and then they'd go to the next girl, and the person would watch the videos. And from what my girlfriend at the time and her friend had explained. I mean, there were just these different snuff videos, which at the time, I mean, this was 2007. If you think about it, there were still sites on the internet like Ogreish and Gorgasm, and there, these websites that you go to that were almost kind of like deep web, and they would have snuff films, and people getting drawn and quartered, or people getting their heads cut off, or something like that. But they would have these things right online, so saying like, oh, they were watching snuff films. I mean, it didn't seem like that crazy of a thing to me.
I think it was just I don't think anybody expected that. I mean, that's what we learned. This Dr. Brian Porter was showing them to women unwittingly. They had no idea that that's what they were about to see. And then this one particular woman was violently ill after watching it and traumatized, and that's how she went to the police. And so I would suspect that I don't think the women going in there had any idea. I think that was the whole point.
Shoot, I can't hear Tricia at all. Ben, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm right here.
Can you hear Trish?
Yeah, can you hear me, Ben?
I can hear Trish.
Can you hear me then? I just can't. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But they watch these videos. The way the videos were described to me, because my girlfriend at the time, she's like, there was this scene, and then there was this scene, and she basically said that they looked fake. But then, what? Me and her used to watch a lot of really ridiculous horror films and stuff like that. So I don't know, that stuff all just after a while it just all looks kind of fake, I guess.
Well, who would think that you'd be shown an actual snuff film too? I mean, I don't think I would believe what I was seeing, honestly.
Well, sure. Especially you're at this women's empowerment party.
Yes.
Empowerment party. Yeah.
I know I wouldn't. I would very much doubt my eyes, and I'm sure I would have had the same reaction. But that's incredible. And so was there any mention of the tattooing, or did she was that at a different point, maybe in the process or something?
No, no tattoo talk or anything like that. No branding talk.
Yeah. And when she left there? How was it? How did the host or those guys from NXIVM leave it with the people at the end of the party? Like, were they supposed to show up for something else, or were they going to be contacted, or how did that work?
I have really no idea.
Okay.
I figured they had the attendance list. I mean, imagine the way that group seemed to operate, because they operated it rather almost they were almost like club ninjas, really. Because I remember even going up to Vancouver, British Columbia, and going to different party spots and clubs. And you'd see down like alleyways, just stacks of cards that would say just NXIVM on these black cards with yellow writing that would say NXIVM. You'd see them, tucked into the cubbies of like bathrooms, or in the molding of the club, or by the DJ booth, or at the bar, or under the bar, like just anywhere you'd see these cards, and they'd say NXIVM. But there was no contact info or anything like that. It was just NXIVM in yellow writing on a card. So they definitely would make their presence known. So I imagine if they're selecting people for, recruitment, they'd probably have some really, kind of snazzy, cool way to do it or something. I'm sure it's not just like some letter of acceptance or something like that.
Right.
So this was a big thing up in Canada? NXIVM cult, big thing up in Canada?
Apparently so. It's New York, Vancouver, British Columbia, and Austin, Texas are their main locations from what I can discern. They seem to have the highest amount of activity.
Didn't it start out in Arkansas to begin with?
Pardon?
Didn't it start out in Arkansas to begin with, down there by the Clintons?
That I don't know.
That was the original, pyramid scheme that he did. The Buyers Club or something. It was something else, I think.
Oh, Rainier's. He had a
Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, it was a pyramid marketing scam.
Yeah. I think that's what was.
People need to know. This is how serious this is. I mean, the mainstream media hardly covers this at all. But isn't Rainier? He's not even allowed out on bail. Rainier. That's how bad this is. And the same thing with that Allison Mack. Isn't she out on $5 million bond?
Yes.
And then when they talk about mainstream media, they'll say trafficking, but they leave out the child sex trafficking. That's what's in the indictment. That they're arrested.
It does. They keep a tight lip on that.
Yeah. They leave out the child sex trafficking. Mm-hmm. And this is what
they keep a tight lip on that stuff. Anyways, do you realize that it used to be a conspiracy to even talk about stuff like that. If you talked about the Catholic Church molesting kids, 10, 15 years ago, people would have thought you were crazy. They would have said, "You're absolutely nuts. There's no way that there's priests that are molesting kids." But now we find out that not only were they doing it, but it's this rampant, epic, just endless list of priests that have just been shifted around and never have received any kind of jail time or anything like that.
Well, no, but the Pope just avoided arrest on the 21st
gave diplomatic immunity to a senior Vatican official
he's been found guilty
in the U.S.
of child trafficking, child murder, everything else by this international court that was set up by, with Kevin Annett, and I've had him on the show, and they were going to arrest the Pope on 21st, but the local police and stuff stopped them, and in fact arrested these marshals that were going to arrest the Pope and jailed them. But this is another thing. They've all been found guilty of this, the Queen of England and everything, by this international court of this child trafficking and this pedophilia and having hunting parties where they hunt down these kids and shoot them, and make them strip naked and hunt them down.
Jimmy Savile.
Well, yeah, he was involved in it too, but he croaked. But they can't arrest these people now. There's warrants out for the Queen. There's warrants out for the Pope and a bunch of other people, and a bunch of CEOs, everything that were involved in this, and we can't get them.
Yeah. Well, the CEO of the New York Times was the chief at BBC who covered up decades of that satanic rape and ritual sacrifice of children at the BBC, and he's now at the New York Times. And the woman who exposed him, the BBC reporter who exposed Mark Thompson for covering up all of that abuse, was turned up dead last year,
right
over the summer.
That's what happens all the time. And I really want to thank you, Ben, for coming on the show. And like I said, I'm very, very concerned for you. And we stand behind you 1,000%. And anybody comes and harasses you, you have my phone number, you have my email. And Trish, get a hold of us. We will stand behind you 100%. And I'm so happy that you came on and told your story, because this has to get out. We have got to stop this. These perverts running our government. We have got to stop this. Yeah, it's really beyond belief. I mean, for anyone who's just starting to research. Right. And you are so brave to come out and tell the story that everybody needs to hear, because we have to show where these people are all involved in this.
Well, I appreciate that very much, Evelyn.
Yes. We appreciate it so much for you doing this, and it's such bravery. But I will pray for you every day. Many, many blessings and love to you, Ben. That we need people like you so much to help us with this, because we have got to stop this. We have got to stop having our government run by pedophiles.
Ben, let us know, like, as you move forward, what
Go ahead,
what you're going to do.
Certainly, I will. I'll give you guys some updates.
Yes,
we can
as things are coming to me. Like I said, I'm gonna do this lie detector test, and a lot of people say, well, that's just a lie detector test, whatever. But that is also about 85% accuracy. So I mean, it's a little bit of something. It's something that people say, hey, this guy's not trying to bullshit anyone.
Right. You get an honest lie detector person, and that would be wonderful. But it's so scary now because this is the battle of our lifetime. We are fighting against Satanists here. And
the other thing to be aware of too, Ben, is that there are a lot of people out there who, they'll find out what they can from you and then sabotage you. So too, be careful of that. I don't mean to scare you or anything, but
I've taken preparations in case of that, and I understand that there's a lot of NXIVM. There's NXIVM people. There's people involved with NXIVM. There's probably high-powered politicians. There's probably Hillary Clinton supporters. There's probably people who don't like Trump and would assume that this is some kind of Trump move, or I've been called MK Ultra. I've been called CIA. Just about anything you could imagine. So.
Well, you are a
keep
true
us
hero,
posted, Ben. Thank you so much.
Me and Trish will stand behind you 100%. So, okay, people. Well, this has been a great show, and I sure learned a lot from the hero, Ben. And so, we will see you next week, people. Goodbye.